This 1 Degree Outside video is brought to you by the Topsfield Fair.
At the Topsfield Fair, fun is around every corner. Experience the thrills, flavors, and entertainment you won't forget. From award-winning bites to exciting live shows, prize-winning fun awaits you at the Topsfield Fair, October 3rd to the 13th.
1 Degree Outside Weather Network, this is Pattern Predictions. A look out to the next 2 weeks. I'm meteorologist Matt Noyes, 1 day late on Pattern Predictions. We usually do it on a Monday. This is being recorded and posted on Tuesday. Either way, it's the same thing. It is the description of the next 2 weeks of weather. And of course, you can always get that 14-day forecast, the data for your location or anywhere in the world with our free and 5-star app, 1 Degree Outside on the App Store and Google Play. We're also streaming all the time, 1degreeoutside.live, or on your smart TV. Pull up the YouTube app and do a search for 1 Degree Outside Network, New England's first and only weather network. And then finally, there is no corporate ownership here. It's just us, and we appreciate that it's us and you. I guess it's never really been just us, but thank you to everybody who contributes. Membership.1degreeoutside.com if you want to check that out. All right, let's get right into the pattern, show you what's going on. We're going to start out with 500 millibar heights. What is that? It's how high up in the sky you have to go until the barometer reads 500 millibars, okay? So higher heights, got to go higher up. That tends to be warmer air through a deep layer of the atmosphere. Lower heights tends to be colder air. Well, you can see the way we've colored it. The colder air certainly is in place up near the North Pole. There's a lot of warmth, though, across the country, and isn't it interesting that the storms off the southeast, for all the ups and downs that we had in the forecast, how close was it going to get, was going to hit, et cetera, it's actually very close to what we put out in pattern predictions last week. Why? There's no magic there. Because what we look at in pattern predictions is the jet stream, the westerlies, the steering flow, the atmospheric setup. And at the end of the day, for all the intricate details, usually that's what's going to determine what actually will end up happening in the atmosphere. So what does that mean as we go out through the upcoming 2 weeks then when we get to the tropics? Well, first things first, you're going to build this ridge over the eastern United States. You can see where the clash of warm and cold is off to our north. So this means we're really devoid of any tap to the tropics. You're not going to get tropical moisture. It's a mostly dry pattern that comes up. It also is going to be a mostly milder pattern that comes up, particularly during the course of the day. And notice when you get out to the ocean, you might develop storms in the eastern and central Atlantic, but if you're taking the westerlies and you've got this clash of air that's coming down across the North Atlantic, chances are very good you're not going to bring anything directly into the coastline. But there's an exception to note here. Right here. Over the Gulf Coast, you're going to dig in just enough energy aloft for a weak upper level low. And if you do that, this time of year in particular, the water's warm, you get thunderstorms, you get enough of them to develop, you can actually develop some storminess right near the Gulf Coast or right off the southeast coast near the Bahamas. So we're going to be watching that very carefully as we get out to this upcoming weekend and next week. For us next week, there's a pretty meaningful cold front that comes in. There it is right around midweek, the lowering heights in the atmosphere, the colder average temperature, a little taste of that air that comes from the North Pole, but it is a little taste. Watch what happens even by the end of next week. Oh, there it goes. And what are you right back into? Generally a ridge, which means generally you're into rebounding temperatures and probably continued dry conditions for the most part. Notice what else is happening, though, as we get toward the middle of the month. We're actually keeping not only a lot of cold air near the North Pole, but kind of weighted towards Siberia in Russia. That's actually really an important signal of what may be coming as we head into the late fall and the winter. You want this to happen in this spot if you want winter snow and cold in New England, because it's step one. You do it like building blocks, and everything has to come together, especially with a changing climate. It's harder and harder to get it all to come together, but this would be step one. You've got the cold, which will lead to the snow that builds in Siberia, and that's exactly where you want it to begin. Eventually, you want it to bleed into portions of Alaska and into northern Canada, and then you bring it south from there. Isn't it interesting in the high temperature forecast over the next 14 days, we have to really blow this range out. There's even more variance. It's funny. Pattern predictions over the last 3 weeks, I've had to expand the range on this graph for high temperatures every week. In other words, it's not that you're losing the warmth in any given 2-week period. It's that you're getting cooler on the cool times and sometimes even warmer on the warm times. So you've got this really big range in temperature that comes over the next 2 weeks. But clearly, as you just saw, it's more weighted toward warmth in the first half of the 14-day period. Next week, remember I was telling you the midweek cold front. So following that, yeah, it's a pretty good shot of surface chill that comes into the Northeast. But again, it's limited. It's that shot that comes out of Canada. It raises the chance of frost, certainly. But at the same time, it's not like you've got a big kind of chunk of cold that comes in behind it. It almost immediately starts to moderate after that. So when you look at low temperatures, yeah, we've got the cool air that's in place for the first part of this week. That relents, and we, dare I say, turn mild for a while as we get out to the early part of next week. And then, yes, you do have a chance of frost coming back in the forecast because these are New England average numbers. So you're on par with, and perhaps a little colder even than what you have coming up on the nights at the middle and end of this week. And you know what? It all matches perfectly with what we call climatology, the history of weather, climate in an area, right? If you look at where the average first frost date should be, we're right around that time of the year as we get into next week for a lot of central and parts of interior southern New England. So not much surprise to see that in the forecast. One of the things you'll also see, though, is a very limited chance of precipitation. I mean, really, maybe with that cold front at the middle of next week, you get an increased chance of showers. But generally, what are you at? Almost every day, you're at a below 35%. Almost every day, frankly, you're below 20%. So this is going to be a continued dry pattern. If there are folks trying to get in some of the last haying of the year for our farmers, or if you've got projects that need to be done outside that involve any type of painting or any type of work, even on asphalt work, things of that nature, you've got actually a very good pattern to do it. I mean, the next 10 days have very little rain in the forecast. Obviously, the problem there is that we still have a drought that's considerable. It's ongoing, and that is not going to get any better coming up over the next 2 weeks, all right? Swag.onedegreeoutside.com as the weather changes. One more way to support us. You can get some new gear. That's how it looks for now. I hope you enjoy these pattern predictions. I love bringing them to you. Look forward to seeing you always at onedegreeoutside.com and now on that stream, onedegreeoutside.live.